I think Florida has the advantage at quarterback. Decently easy to see Florida starting as 5-0. Going to be the best wide receiver that steps on the field.
One of us is going to be wrong on Saturday.
Yes.
And I have a good idea that it's probably not going to be me. Welcome, college football fans, to the first Inside Insight show for the 2024 season. And I'm very happy to have Allie joining me today from the channel A Peek Inside Florida Gators Football. And if you're new to this series, the idea is to bring on a content creator that covers Miami's opponent each week so they can tell us a little bit more about their team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Allie an opportunity here to tell you guys a bit about herself and where you can find her, because on this channel, we don't save it for the end. We do it right here at the beginning. So Allie, tell them a little bit about yourself and where they can look you up.
All right. Thanks, Coop. You can find me on YouTube, like Coach Coop said, A Peek Inside Florida Gator Football. You can find me on Twitter, Allie_Peek, P-E-E-K. And, I have covered college football for 20 years. I have done radio. I have done television. I have conquered YouTube now. I have done print. Gator born and bred. My grandfather, my dad, my brother, and my husband all played football for Florida. I attended the University of Florida, went to the journalism school there, knew this is kind of always what I wanted to do. And then I had my babies, had 4 kids, and kind of took a break. And the last couple of years jumped into the YouTube world, and it's been really fun. And, if I was going to follow the team anyway, right, and do the research anyway, might as well have a YouTube channel and talk about it.
That's pretty wild. So you are literally like all Florida. For me, I'm like an outsider. I'm in Tennessee and I root for Miami, but you're like, wow, you have history with Florida, like family ties. Like, that's wild.
There are 3 families in Florida football history that have 3 generations of players. Vernell Brown will become the 4th family as soon as Vernell Brown III, steps foot on the field for Florida next year. But yeah, it is, not that many people have been around, I guess, as long as we have. And, got to be at UF during some of the best times. My husband won a national championship in 2006. My brother won one in 2008. So I've definitely been around for some of the, more glorious Gator times, for sure.
That's impressive. If I look shocked, guys, it's because she didn't tell me any of this before. So this is my first time hearing this, just like it is for a lot of you guys. So we're just going to go ahead and get straight to the good stuff. And I'm going to ask you a big question here right out of the gate. Almost every Florida fan that I have interacted with on the internet this week has said that the advantage for the Gators is the swamp and the crowd noise. And to an extent, I agree. That is a major factor going into this game. It's a tough place to play. I have seen teams play that I thought were better than Florida, and they still walked away with an L playing in the swamp. But my question is this. Do you have any other advantages, any football advantages, something outside of playing in the swamp that you think Florida has? It can be a position group, a particular player, literally anything.
Yeah, I think Florida, I know your fans are about to attack me, but I think Florida has the advantage at quarterback. And, as you and I have talked off air a little bit, this does not mean that I don't think Cam Ward is a good player. This does not mean that I don't agree that his ceiling is probably higher than Graham Mertz's. But Graham Mertz is a veteran guy returning to this team, playing at home. Cam Ward is playing his very first game in a Canes jersey with this team in a stadium that will be the loudest that they are in this entire season. So I do think that there is an experience advantage there for Florida. And, I want to touch on what you said about the stadium. And I understand that a stadium alone does not determine the outcome of a game. But I think the way that Gator fans are looking at it is these teams, whether or not Miami fans want to admit it, are pretty evenly matched. So if you have teams that are pretty evenly matched, 247 says like they do their talent rankings every year,
Mhm.
and they say our rosters are essentially dead even. So if that is the case, that talent wise, these rosters are pretty close to dead even, then you look for external advantages, right? And I think
Fair,
that
fair.
the stadium would be one of those glaring advantages.
Now, Miami is coming into this game with a loaded running back room, especially now that it's been announced that Mark Fletcher is 100% healthy and ready to go for this game. And we're just all around feeling pretty good about that group. Now, I don't know the official status of Florida's running back Montrell Johnson Jr., but last I saw, he was week to week. He had that minor knee operation. Again, I don't know all of the details. So my
Yeah.
question really is this: is there any update on him? Number one, and number two, how do Florida fans feel about that room without Johnson? Are Florida fans confident in the other running backs in that position group?
Okay, well, first of all, Florida did release their depth chart today, and Montrell Johnson is sitting at the top of the running back depth chart, listed as the starter. So, is that some gamesmanship by Napier? I don't know. We'll see that on Saturday. We have heard week to week, essentially since the injury happened. So and I hope they don't use him if he's not 100%, honestly, because
Right.
then we don't have him for the rest of the season if something goes wrong there. But yeah, I think that they are pretty confident in what this running back room brings to the table. I don't know if you saw any highlights from Florida's spring game, but Jaden Baugh was huge. I mean, such a baller. He reminded me kind of Ernest Graham in the way that he runs. So that's somebody that I think Florida fans have to watch for. Webb is, I would say, probably the solid number 2 behind Johnson if Johnson is healthy. But the reality is that running back room is deep, and it is a position of strength for Florida. Now, does that mean that it's a better running back room than Miami? I'm not prepared to say that, but I think that Florida's confident even if Johnson doesn't play, but at least on paper, he's playing.
Okay. So that's good. I had not seen the depth chart. And of course, you're going to be way more plugged in with Florida football than I am, which is part of why we do this series. So we can get, news and information like that. So are you going to the game?
I am.
You
Yes.
are.
I'm
Okay.
very excited
Perfect.
for the game.
Perfect. So you can possibly answer this question for me because Canes fans are very confused about all of this, myself included. So are the fans, Florida fans, are you guys wearing white, blue, orange? What's going on? Because I saw where the University of Florida put out wear white, and now today Miami came out, and Miami is going Stormtrooper combo. So Miami's going to be in all white.
Oh,
So
wait.
are fans coming together and trying to do blue and orange, or
So I will be wearing blue because
okay?
I personally cannot wear the opposing team's color. However, I did hear a really interesting theory on this today, and in all transparency, when it came out, I was like, "What are we doing? This is so stupid." And I honestly was thinking like, "Oh, those Miami fans on Twitter are going to tell us it was packed with Miami fans because Gator fans wore white."
Okay,
Um,
I said that. I said that
Oh,
too.
well, I didn't even see you say that, but I just knew that would come, right? But so there's a former player that played with my husband who on Twitter was like, "No, this is a chess move. They're wanting everyone in all white so that when Ward is looking for his wide receivers, he's looking for an all white wide receiver in a washed out background." I don't know if I'm buying that or if that's just a nice way to spin a poor, I don't know, PR department choice. I'm not really sure, but I'll be interested to see how it plays out. I actually can't imagine that many Florida fans wear white, but we will see.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I even saw a larger Florida fan on Twitter. They had a large following, and they were trying to like fire up some kind of petition to not wear
All kinds
white
I think was
or
doing that.
something. Yeah, I thought that was so funny. Okay, so maybe not a whiteout in the swamp. I guess we'll see on Saturday.
We'll
So
see. also, if it rains and everyone's in white, that seems like a bad call. I don't know. I had some issues with it.
Very
I'll work.
true. Very good point. Good point. Moving on. Obviously, all eyes are on Graham Mertz and Cam Ward. Everybody likes talking quarterbacks. But I
Yeah.
would like to know, as a Miami fan, are there any rumblings of possibly like specific packages that might involve DJ Lagway at all?
Um, there has not really been any rumblings about specific packages. I think that there is a great chance there are packages that exist for him. I will be surprised if we see him in this game, to be honest with you. I think if all goes well for Florida, they are not going to see DJ Lagway on Saturday.
Fair. So now then, circling back to Mertz,
Mhm.
do you think, because obviously with Miami, one of Miami's advantages or strong points going into this game would be the D line. Do
Mhm.
you think that Florida has an adequate enough O line to provide some protection for Mertz on Saturday? Do you think they can hold up?
I think that is the very biggest question that Florida fans have is has this offensive line taken a step in the right direction? I've got the starting lineup pulled up right here. The fact that Austin Barber at left tackle is healthy and ready to go is huge for Florida. Najee Harris is somebody that I think we can count on to be reliable, dependable. Jake Slaughter did a really good job at center. But then you look at that right side, and that is kind of Coach Napier has said in his press conferences that they need to shore up that right side. Damian George got the start there, and actually Cameron Waits over Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, which is kind of like, I guess, a little coup, maybe that kind of happened there. But that's the $1 million question for Florida fans. Their skill players are honestly very good. Florida has made some steps in the right direction with wide receiver. They have a lot of talent there, but I think all that talent is a year older. They got some key pieces in the transfer portal that I think will help. Trey Wilson is, Miami fans are going to hate me for this, but going to be the best wide receiver that steps on the field on Saturday, I think. But none of that matters, right? If the offensive line can't give Graham Mertz time.
Right.
And so that is one of the major keys for Florida. And unfortunately for the Gators, they're testing out this offensive line against a really, really talented defensive line.
Deep,
Yeah.
deep D line for the Canes. It's
Yeah.
honestly probably one of the position groups that us Canes fans are most excited for. You got guys that can play outside or inside, very deep at that position. Brought in a ton of portal guys that are hopefully instant game changers. So that is going to be a very exciting matchup to watch.
Yeah.
Now, I'm looking for some honesty here from a Florida fan. Is this what you would call a must-win game for Billy Napier? Because it is non-conference, but it is an in-state rivalry game. It's week one, an opportunity to make a statement. Some people say you lose game one and morale is just shot. People say, you win, it could help springboard your team into a successful season. Would this be a must-win game in your opinion?
I think so. And I've talked a lot about this summer. I think this game is important for a couple different reasons. I think that Miami and Florida, even though Miami fans will argue with me on this, are in a very similar position. They both have a coach heading into year 3 who it's time that they start to prove themselves. They have had some coaching blunders along the way. You can look at the Georgia Tech game for Miami. You can look at the Arkansas and Missouri game for Florida. Poor coaching decisions in those games make that record at the end of the year look very different. If Miami and Florida were both sitting at 8 wins last year, we would be having less of this conversation that we're having now. And those were coaching choices. And and then you go to the fact that we compete for the same recruits. And when Florida is at their best, when Miami is at their best, it's when we are recruiting our own backyard successfully. And there's going to be a lot of kids sitting in the stands on Saturday that are looking at both of those programs. And I think that the winner of this game then shows, hey, we are a step ahead. We've crossed that hurdle. We're moving in the right direction. And then lastly, if Florida can't beat Miami, it's hard to find wins down the road. This is a team that has to travel to Knoxville to play a very talented Tennessee team in a really hostile environment. They get Texas, LSU, Georgia, and Ole Miss, and Florida State 5 and 6 weeks, which is a baton death march, essentially, right? And
Minus Florida State. Minus Florida State. But
listen, I think
the
Florida beats that last one, but I think there's a great chance they lose the 4 before it. So, if you can't win game 1, it becomes harder to see how you improve at all on last year's record. And I just don't think that 3 losing seasons is something that's survivable for anybody, even given the toughness of this schedule. So I think this is huge. And, if Florida wins, winning begets winning, right? If Florida wins this game, I think it's decently easy to see Florida starting as 5-0. Which again, I still think they lose 4 or 5 on the back end, so that they need those 5, right? At
right.
the beginning. So I think this is incredibly important. Conference, non-conference, doesn't matter. This is a must win.
Yeah, and as weird as it might sound to Miami fans, coming from a fellow Miami fan, I do feel like there's more pressure in a lot of ways on Billy to win this game, because you and I talked about this a little bit off camera and earlier tonight, that nobody wants to lose. I mean,
Right.
nobody wants to lose ever. It doesn't matter. But for Miami, when you compare our schedule to your schedule, ours is way easier. I don't envy you guys at all with that schedule that you have this season. So Miami could theoretically drop this game. We'll get to score predictions here in a moment. I don't think that happens, but they could, and could still possibly run the table, looking at this thing on paper, of course. So I agree. I think that it is a huge game for Billy. But one thing I do want to do, one last question before we get to score predictions, because I'm looking at mine over here, and it's putting a big smile on my face. Are there any specific portal additions that Florida picked up that maybe Miami fans should keep an eye out or keep an eye on during this game?
I'm interested to see how Joey Slackman does. He is an addition to our defensive line. He comes from the Ivy Leagues. And so, this is big boy football, and it'll be interesting to see what the transition is. But everything out of Florida this summer has been that he is just a man possessed. Like, they talk about him doing cannonballs into the ice, an ice bath. They talk about him just being kind of on another level at all times. And this is a defensive line that needed a mean streak and needed some fire. And from all reports, he has been that. So I'm interested to see if that translates on the field.
Okay, fair. So, Allie, I think it might be time to discuss some numbers here, to talk W's and L's, which is what everybody's waiting for. It's what everybody wants to know. Now, I do let my guests know I put numbers out there, but you don't have to be that brave if you don't want to. You're more than welcome to. You can put actual score prediction out there. I'm a little crazy. I can put up with the hate. I don't mind it. And I'll even take the pressure off of you. Most on my channel have probably already seen the preview video, so you already know. But I do have Miami winning a close one. I'm not predicting any kind of blowout here. 27-21. I want to be more bullish on Miami. I want to say 10-13, but it's week 1. Everything's on paper, so I'm going the little bit more boring conservative route here. I know Miami is currently favored at 2.5, so around 3 points here. I'm going to double that, say 6, 27-21. What do you got?
Well, I don't know if you can read this, and I didn't actually write it to be shown, but I wrote 28-21 Florida. So I think, and I know Miami fans think it's not talking football, but I think when two teams are very evenly matched, I think the crowd's going to be a difference. And I think veteran leadership is going to be the difference.
Well, I do know for a fact that one of us is going to be wrong on Saturday.
Yes.
And I have a good idea that it's probably not going to be me. But you guys let me know down in the comment section below what you think about our score predictions. If you have any questions about what we talked about in this video, and make sure that you go show Allie some love. Like I said, we're all one big happy college football family. I end all of my videos with saying that, and I mean it. We're enemies on game day, but we all love college football. I'm happy that these two teams are playing. I enjoy the rivalry. We get to see you guys at Hard Rock next season, so we'll be seeing more of each other. But leave your score predictions. Let's chop it up down in the comment section below. follow Allie on all of her stuff. I'll have it linked in there. But I guess that's about it. If you you guys have your little thing. If you want to do your thing, I'll leave it in. I won't edit it out. Oh, woo.